Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Sayla and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack, and today our guest is Agostino Pintus, and he is the founder and CEO of Bulletproof Cashflow, where he applies nearly 2 decades of real estate experience to source, negotiate, and acquire commercial properties. He's a dynamic speaker who has spoken at a wide range of events in and throughout Canada and the United States. Agostino, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Eileen, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Doing phenomenal. Any day above ground is a good day, right?
Can't complain. I'm with you there. So can you share a little bit about your background, Agostino, and how you got into real estate?
Sure. So my background is actually technology. When I was growing up, I had the intention of working in tech since I was a kid, right? When I was able to get my hands on a keyboard to start writing code when I was like 10 years old, I had every intention of working in technology for the rest of my life. And the thing is I want to be an entrepreneur though, right? That was the key. I want to do something. I want to own the company. I want to run things on my own. Now, my parents are immigrants from Italy. They basically said, you know what? Entrepreneurship, no, it's too risky. You need to go work somewhere. You need to go get a job, 40 hours a week, go do that, get a check, get your 2 weeks of vacation and live. And I just did what they said, like many other people out there, right?
Because you listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents, right? And not to mention too, I think the environment also was not really conducive, right? I grew up in a small town in Canada, in Windsor, right? Across from Detroit. And it isn't like Silicon Valley, or it isn't like we talked about Boston. It isn't like Boston or New York, where it's a major hub, especially like Silicon Valley is a major tech hub, a lot of opportunity. Not so much in a small town too. But no, regardless, I said, okay, mom, okay, dad, I'm going to go and work for these different companies. I did that. But no matter what you do, you can't kill the entrepreneurial spirit. It's very hard to kill that, right? That bug. And I eventually made it to a CIO level working at these many companies, but I still want to do something on my own. And, but one thing I also knew was that working in corporate, doesn't matter what level I was at, on the way up, on the come up to C level, I was always in fear. I was always in fear of losing my job. No matter how good I did, I was always in fear. When is the boss going to come in and hand me the box, tell me to get lost? Right. And it happened a lot, by the way. So I'm not a good employee, it seems. But the very last time it happened was probably about 5 years ago. And now at this point, I made myself a promise that I would never go work for anybody ever again. And I made the transition to real estate. So I decided I'm going to take one more consulting role and really go all in on real estate. So yeah, in my mind, I had to sever that tie. So if you know you have a backup, if you know that, okay, if I fail at this, I can always go back to corporate. I removed that backup from my whole psyche. I just got rid of it. So there is no backup. This has got to work. If other people can make it work, I can make it work too. That's the attitude that I took to get into real estate. That's exactly what I did. And, unfortunately for me, I didn't get a mentor. I didn't do any of that stuff. I didn't even know they had podcasts like this. And I ended up, muddling my way through, reading a lot of books, studying on my own, finding different old programs from the 70s and 80s on how to do subject twos and all these different type of financing, creative financing things which are now really, really relevant today. I had to learn it all on my own. And I think had I gone through a mentorship or had I gone through some sort of group training, I probably would have been way better off. But regardless, I did it. And today, now we control about $350 million worth of projects and other developments that we do. We have three primary lines of business. We do our multifamily acquisition, our multifamily development, and our net lease fund. So with those three lines, we stay extremely busy just running these three different lines of business. So it's been a very, very exciting 5 years, and the next 5 years are bound to be way more exciting even still. So yeah, that's the basic short form of the story so far.
So I'd like to ask you a little bit about, while you were working, you worked your way up the corporate ladder, got up to the high chief level as a chief information officer. At what point did you start looking into real estate? Was it while you were still working, or was it afterwards where you decided, I need to look for something else, I wanted to be an entrepreneur?
You know, Eileen, I'll tell you what, at that last corporate job that I had, I was starting to look at real estate again, right? What I was doing is I was going to LoopNet. I was looking at deals on LoopNet. And as you know, LoopNet is the place where deals go to die. We all know this. Everyone knows it's where people go. That's where LoopNet is the place where deals go to die, right? I mean, I know it's tongue in cheek. I know sometimes people find deals on there. Okay, it can happen, but I don't want to get. Maybe we can do that at a later time. We could do another show about how deals are distributed to investors. But anyway, I had it in my mind to do real estate again. But the problem is that you have that paycheck. You have that paycheck that comes in every single week or every 2 weeks or whatever, right? In my case, it was every 2 weeks. That paycheck is just enough to keep you from actually fulfilling your dream. It's just enough to keep you from taking action. And that's what it did for me, right? I was making beaucoup bucks as a CIO. So why should I go and do this real estate thing if I can just sit here and get paid beaucoup bucks? I live in a nice place. I have a nice car. What do I need to do this for? And that's the hardest part right there. You know, that is that people that really want to see their dreams through, they just can't because they're getting that paycheck.
It's the comfort level.
The comfort level. Yeah. It's like a drug. It really is a drug. It's just that every 2 weeks you get another hit. Right. And, but when that hit is gone, yeah, how's it say? Remission? Is that what it is? No, not remission. What's the word I'm looking for? It's I forget the word I'm looking for now. But yeah, it becomes very tough to try to get through it. It becomes very tough to get through it when you finally lose that check. So I made a vow to never make that a thing ever again.
So when you decided to go full force and put all your efforts into real estate, did it change to what you're focused in now, like where you first started to where you are now? Or did you always know you were going to do multifamily development? And how did that kind of change over time?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I've been doing real estate for a long time prior, but it was all single family stuff, right? When I was working in corporate, I was a young guy making good money. And a friend of mine that worked in corporate said, "Hey, you ought to buy some single family homes." And I just shrugged and I said, "Okay, sure." I mean, that was the decision process to get into the whole real estate game, was like a shrug and say, "Sure." I had no idea what I was doing. I just went off and started buying a ton of single family homes, you know, but one thing I started doing was building a set of rules around how to buy single family homes. So it kind of like, I again, muddled my way through, I didn't know this training or anything else like that even available. I didn't read any books or anything else like that until later, right? And really studied it to understand what I was doing. But that really helped, I guess, bring over into what ended up becoming the multifamily thing. When I decided to do real estate, I wasn't entirely clear how to do multifamily. I didn't know, right? It wasn't until I had a discussion when I made the decision to actually do real estate and get back into the real estate game in a broad sense. I talked to a friend of mine, real estate attorney, and I happened to be like outside of a Starbucks. I'm sitting there. I look outside the window and I see an apartment building, maybe like a 30 unit or something, right? And I said to my friend, I go, "Hey, who owns those buildings?" He's like, "What do you mean, who owns those buildings? People own those buildings." I go, "No, what people? Doesn't the bank own them? I thought the bank owns that stuff." No, people own them. It's syndication. I go, "Syndication? What's that?" And he explained how syndication works, raising money, how the splits work, and the returns and all that fun stuff, very, very quickly. And I'm like, "Oh, I could do that." And then, and that's when the whole mind shift occurred, is that after I got fired from that job, and I knew I was going to do something in real estate, I thought it was going to be like single family and small multifamily, but it ended up being big multifamily now. Like now our deals are, the smallest one we do is maybe 10 million, the biggest one we've done is about 130, right? So it ranges anywhere between, from now on, it's probably going to be $30 million deals and up is what we're going to be attacking for the time being. All development stuff, by the way. So, but yeah, it took a very big mind shift. And I'll tell you, until you do your first deal, it is kind of scary. The first deal is always the hardest. It's always the hardest. Mine was extremely difficult, but then deal number 2 becomes less hard. And then deal number 3 is less harder, even still. Then eventually you're able to do many deals. And right now we have like 5 or 6 deals cooking, all development, which is significantly more difficult than just acquisition. Not to say that acquisition is easy. I'm not saying that it is, but these days, now we can handle a lot more because now we have a team, we have processes, we know how to do this kind of stuff, right? So yeah, it's definitely a different mind shift, but yeah, it's certainly a big change from the first time I did my $1.4 million deal, and I was all like freaking out. I can't believe it. Oh my God, $1.4 million deal. Now I won't even look at those deals anymore. It's kind of funny how your mind expands as you start doing more deals, right? Your mind just expands. It's crazy. It really is.
So how did you overcome the challenges of getting into your first deal? Like you mentioned, a lot of people have a lot of setbacks and challenges to be able to get into their first like large multifamily deal. How did you overcome that? And what were some of the steps that you had to take to make that happen?
Well, I took the hard way. That's how I do it. Right. I always make it difficult for myself. So I'll tell you, there is an easy way to do it. There is an easy way. I'll start with the easy way first, and then I'll explain the hard way, the way I did it. Right. So the easy way for most people is to invest with a good partner, a limited partner, right? As a limited partner, rather. Why? Well, because if you have a good partner that knows what they're doing, they have a good track record, they've done deals like this before, you're familiar with them, they're public, you see them on social media, they're active, they close deals, then you know what? That's one way to learn and one way to understand how to even look at deals, what makes a deal tick. A lot of those people will they'll show you the ropes to some degree. They'll tell you how they bought it, why they bought it, what's important, what's not important, how to present, because usually the people that put the deals together, someone's got to present the deal, so you get to learn that. And for a limited partner, to put in 50 or 100K, it really isn't a lot of money. It really isn't. Not anymore these days, anyway. And I don't mean that's chump change or anything else like that. But what I'm saying is that the downside risk is so minimal compared to being a GP on the deal. We as GPs, as you know, we have to sign for the debt. We have to run the deal. We have to report to the investors. There's a lot of overhead there, right? We have to run it for 10 years profitably. Hard to do. Very hard to do, right? Depending on the asset, of course. So as an LP, that's one great way to do it. Or you could do it the way I did it. And at the time, again, no training. But one thing I did know, but before I started raising money, I felt that I had to do my own deal. That's how I did it. And I happened to do my first deal was a multifamily deal. It was an 11-unit apartment. And there was one more unit that was unfinished. So it was going to convert it to 12 units. And the guy who owned it put it up. He listed it with an agent, like a real estate agent. And she took it and put it on the MLS. Why would anybody do that? I don't know. That's what she did. So nobody was looking for this deal. It was sitting on this MLS for over 200 days.
Wow.
So note to people out there, if you are looking for multifamily, check the MLS. Once in a while, you'll see one on there, right?
LoopNet and then the MLS.
Right. Well, the thing is, though, is that this deal was, I paid $11,000 a door. The rents were almost $600 a month. That's a good deal, right? That's a strong deal. So I'm like, this is phenomenal. So of course I bought it. I used my own money as a down payment, and to get the deal done. And I took it, ran it properly. I finished that last unit, put a tenant in there, cranked up the rents even more, eventually sold it for like 30 a door. Not a bad payday, right? So did okay, right? So yeah, I mean, that's how I did it, right? Nowadays, we train people how to raise capital, how to talk to brokers, who the gatekeepers of the actual deals, you know as well as I do. It's the brokers. The brokers are the gatekeepers of the deal, right? So today, that's how we do it, right? But no one taught me any of this stuff. I kind of like figured it out on my own, right? I did know that I had to talk to the brokers. I did know how to do that. I did know that raising money from other folks was extremely important. Being stewards of other people's livelihood is certainly a big deal to me. So, it has to be a big deal to the students that we train as well. So, yeah, that's how I did it. I mean, it's certainly, again, wasn't an easy deal to do just because they have to deal with the dynamics of a type of seller, right? But we got it done. And it did very, very well. You know? So that was the only deal I did in that like that. From then on, we syndicated most of our deals, or we do some sort of special financing type scenario, some creative financing type deals. That's how we've done them since.
So after that first deal, what were the biggest steps that you took, or how did you end up getting to where you are today? Because within 5 years, you've been able to amount to over $300 million of assets under management. You've done several deals, worked on multifamily development, triple net leases. What has been the biggest contributor to your success, and how have you built up yourself from there?
The key contributor is number one, partnerships. You have to partner up with other folks. That's really how it is. I think it's very counter to how I used to live my life anyway. Before it was all about me, right? And that's not how you do it. You need other folks, you need other partners. But I think the biggest thing that we tell our students anyway, is that you have to bring value to the partnership. Right? And it's so good you have to repeat it twice. Because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll get into this business and they make it about themselves, right? And you can't do that. When it comes to this business, it's a team sport, right? It really is. And I know everybody who's in real estate, you heard the cliche. I know you have, I have, right? But it's true. But the thing is, though, is that I don't make it about me. I don't consider what I'm getting first. I think about how's it going to help my partner? Because here's the thing: if I can help my partner, who's like, maybe he's got like 10 times net worth more than I do, but I could bring a great deal to the table and increase his net worth and get him more cash flow. Guess where deal number 2 is going to go to? And guess who's going to back me up? That's how you do it. It's like you put the other person's priorities ahead of yours just for a second. Just do that. And if you do that and can do it consistently without fail, then you're going to be fine, right? But that's how I did it. Like every single partnership that I entered into, I busted my chops to try to make it as good as I can for the other people first. That's how I did it. Now, that's how I was be able to build these relationships and friendships. We just did a talk for Cranes, right? Cranes in the newspaper. They reached out and they wanted to do a story on me, right? And I immediately called my partner. I wanted him on the story too. They didn't even know about him. I could have made it all about me. It's my show, right? I could have done that, but I chose not to. I wanted to rope my friend into the deal. I want them to know my friend, and my friend loves publicity, right? So it's like I'm helping him, and by connecting him with this person, right? Even to this very day, if there's a deal that, like in the net lease business, we do net lease, so does he. If there's a net lease deal that's just like it's a great deal, but it's like too big for us, it's outside of our scope, I'll hand it over to him. Here, take it. It's a great deal. I've already underwritten it. It's yours. Hand it to him on a silver platter. These are the types of things that you do for other people. I don't see it happen. I don't see it happen very much at all. It just doesn't. And I made that a priority. That's how I did it. And you have to be able to be willing to do that. That's how I started out, right? If you have the means, you have the friends, maybe you don't have to. Everybody's got a different journey, right? I wish I could say there's a special book or some magic bullet or whatever. There isn't. It's a matter of, this is a partnership game and you have to put other people first. That's my opinion anyway.
And going back to what your parents had when they first came to this country and talking about the risks of being an entrepreneur, versus going to work for somebody else and the stability and the comfort level. And how has that changed now that you are running your own business? You're making your own decisions. How has that changed for you now?
I'll tell you what, there is greater risk working in corporate America than there is working by yourself or with your own company, within your own group, right? Why? Because at least when you're working in your own group, you know where the money's coming from. You're in complete control of your future, of the future of your family, of the future of your partners and the people that you're working with. You're in control, right? When you're in corporate, if the CEO has a bad day, or in my case, the guy who hired me leaves, new guy comes in, hates me and wants to bring in his own guy, which is usually what happens in corporate, right? They have the new president comes in, new CEO comes in, he's got his own group of people, he wants to bring in his own group and get rid of the old folks, right? That can happen any given Friday. They hand you the box. You know the box I'm talking about, right? Hand you the box, pack up your stuff and get lost, right? It can happen. It can happen. So to me, being in corporate is a greater risk. And they're only paying you enough to keep you there. They're not paying you to your potential. They're not paying you to your potential. If your potential was $10 million a year or $350 million of real estate, wouldn't you rather be doing that instead of getting paid $200K a year? I don't know. For some people, it's fine. And I'm not knocking corporate. I do a lot of these shows and I always slam corporate. It ends up becoming that. It's not my intent. It's not my intent at all. It just wasn't right for me, right, is what I'm saying. But regardless, it's kind of like, it's to me anyway, it was a greater risk to be in corporate. It's just that I didn't belong there. I just didn't belong there. So, but for some people, they love it. They love doing what they do. And you know what? All the power to you. Have fun doing it. As long as you're having fun doing it, great. But for me, it's like, it was almost like they just paid me enough not to live to my potential. And I knew I could do better. How
has going into real estate impacted your life? And what is your next focus coming up here?
Sure. So, wow, how's it impacted my life? I mean, you certainly look at things very, very differently now. At least for me anyway. Now, whenever I see a building, I always think about what I could do to make it better. So previously, it's like I said before, I didn't even know what syndication was. So I didn't even really, it wasn't in my focus. And when you start making real estate a focus in your life or whatever it is, it doesn't have to be real estate. It could be whatever you want to do in your life. But I made real estate my focus. And once you do, your reticular activating system in your brain turns on and you start looking for opportunities. And when you start looking for the opportunities actually come to you. So the reason I'm looking at all these different deals all the time is because the deals just present themselves to me. If I was still doing technology, I wouldn't even notice these deals, right? Which goes back to what we were talking about in the green room about having access to deals in a given market, right? Because that's all I do is look for deals, right? And having that freedom to, like, say, go to Colombia to escape the winter, or spending my time as I choose. If I want to sleep in late, which very rarely happens, but if I did, I can do it. I could take a nap in the middle of the day. I mean, I could do these sorts of things. Having your time back, because we have a limited amount of time on this planet. We're not here forever. We often live our lives like we will be, but we're not. So I would much rather be living life on my own terms. And yeah, it's like, that's a real big, important thing for me anyway, is living life on my own terms. So, and I think you said, what's next, right? So I would say that I started the business focused on multifamily, right? So we started multifamily acquisition, mostly B and C class stuff. And I'm a really big believer in targeting one market and growing in that market, expanding in that market, and then moving on to another market. So what we've done is we've acquired a lot of multifamily in the Cleveland area. And we've also started a lot of development. The bulk of our deal flow now is development. We have, about 120 million of development projects underway right now, not including Rockefeller. So Rockefeller by itself is 130 million. So so we have a lot of projects cooking. So and then we have the net lease business, the single tenant net lease business, which is interesting too. So right now the focus is on development and the net lease business, these two aspects right now. Not to say that we're not going to buy anything on the multifamily side anytime soon or whatever, but right now we're not even focused on it. It's just, it's out. It doesn't make financial sense to do it. The cap rates are too low and the cost of acquisition is too high. And with this disparity, it doesn't make financial sense to acquire it. It just doesn't. I would much rather, and because of where we are in the economic cycle, because there's this huge economic shifts, we're spending money into oblivion, we're printing off cash, we're sending it overseas, we're still handing out COVID money. I want to have solid streams of cash flow. And the one thing that net lease does, single tenant net lease, corporate backed single tenant net lease, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Advanced Auto Parts, DaVita, Vetcor, all these different types of companies that have been in business for a very long time with a corporate guarantee on one building with a monthly check that comes in. Very, very, very predictable. I like that. The investors like that too, right? So right now, because of where we are in the economic cycle, we've shifted our attention to development and net lease, right? We have a blind pool, like I mentioned, right? A blind pool that acquires net lease. And on the development side, we're still syndicating those deals too. And obviously we're trying to meet the need. There's still a need for housing in the U.S. and we're filling that need right now. So, like I said, right now we're here in the Rockefeller. This is 432 units, I think, 436 units here. We're building another 104 units in Rocky River, which is a little ways away from here. We're building another 85 units right nearby. We're building another, 150 units up the street. Yeah, we're building a lot of stuff. So it's like that's where the primary focus is these days.
And if there's one thing that you know now about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started, what would that be?
Start sooner. That's easy. I still kick myself. I should have been doing this when I was in my 30s, right? But at the same time, too, it's like the chicken and the egg thing, right? If I hadn't gone through school and done my degrees and did all that fun stuff and then worked in corporate, would I be able to do what I'm doing today? I don't know. I don't know that I can, right? But if someone is out there and they're listening and they're kicking it around or wondering what they should do, 100% do real estate. 100%. The plan that your parents told you to do when you're growing up no longer applies. It just doesn't work. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. It's a whole different field now. We have a dollar that's losing value, right? It's going down in value. We have a fiat currency, right? And if you don't know what a fiat currency is, just look up what happened in 1971. And just Google that. You'll find out. Basically, when Nixon took us off the gold standard, we put a floating currency in place. Every single floating currency, every single fiat currency has gone to zero. We have a fiat currency and we're spending it into oblivion, right? There's economic forces at work that it's the way that we're behaving as a nation. It's not sustainable. It's not. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to go out of business tomorrow or anything else like that, but it's kind of like you have to prepare yourself and get into tax advantaged type of assets that will continue to expand and grow, that are in demand and produce cash flow on a monthly basis. That's what needs to happen. What I'm thinking anyway. I'm not an economist, but that's what we're doing. That's our play here right now, is to do just that.
And if there was one thing, if you were to go back to do first, what would that be to get started?
To get started. I guess, it depends on where I was, right?
If you were at the height of your career.
But yeah, because that's the thing. It's a hard question. It's a very hard question, because it's kind of like, because you know what? It's kind of like, I bet that message that I just shared with someone right now might go in one ear and out the other. But then 6 months from now, they'll hear it again and they'll be like, oh my God, that's what I need to be doing. Yeah. It's kind of like, you have to be prepared to hear the message. But I'll tell you what, when I was working in corporate, I was so focused on corporate that I didn't want to do anything else, right? I don't know if the only one who could have convinced me to do it is me. I would have to go get into a time machine, go back in time and say, here's what you need to do, right? And if that were the case, then I would say, go find a mentor that's actually doing this and go and work for them for free if you have to, just to be near them. just to be near them. And people will poo-poo that all day long. But here's the thing. If you go and spend time with someone who does this every single day, and they do deals, they talk to brokers, they're putting deals together, they're raising money, they're talking to lenders, they're talking to insurance groups, they're actually in the game, and you want to get in the game. If you're around those people, success rubs off. Right? And it's like, next thing you know, you're attending the same events that they're attending because they want to bring you, they want to show you how to do this. They want to help people. People generally want to help other people. And if you help someone else get to where they're going, they will invite you too. It's the same premise I told you about before about how I am with my partners. I try to bring as much as I can to the table. It's the same thing. If you bring something to the table and not ask for anything in return, you will get yours. You will. It just takes time. If you don't have the money to do it, that's one way you can do it. Or get into a mentorship where you can learn how to underwrite a deal, learn how to how do you underwrite it? Or say you do underwrite a deal and share it with a group. That's how we do it. Like we actually have a group of folks. And if you have a deal, you underwrote the deal, you can actually share it with a group, and the group can look at it and pick it apart and tell you what you missed. Right? That has value, a lot of value. Because if there's a deal that you think might be a bad deal, but someone looks at it and say, oh, no, look, I know that Amazon's opened a new warehouse half a mile up the road. You might not have known that. Mm-hmm. That's valuable information. Or keep you out of trouble, the other way around, right? Let's say you think it's a good deal, but you're buying it in East Cleveland. Well, you don't want to buy anything in East Cleveland. Sorry if you're listening from East Cleveland. Right. It's the truth. So yeah, it's like, it's really getting into a mentorship like that is invaluable.
Agostino, thank you so much for all of your time today and for sharing everything that you've done. And for our listeners out there who also want to follow you and learn more about what you're doing in this space, where's the best place that they can go? Sure.
Bulletproofcashflow.com. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook. We're even on TikTok. We're even on TikTok. See that? We're everywhere. YouTube, we're everywhere, right? If anybody's interested in getting more information about how to talk to brokers, we actually have a guide tobrokers.com. Just go there, can download it, ask your email address, or Guide to Capital is the other one, Guide to Capital. So if you want to learn how to raise money from folks, that's another ebook there, totally free. Just go ahead and check those out.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for all of your time.
You bet. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.